they listed the top 5 occupations or characters for female sexual literature. And they were pirate, surgeon, billionaire, vampire, and pilot. And so those are all males who I would say are marked by, oh no, not pilot, werewolf. Werewolf was the 5th one. And so I think it reflects to some degree this conundrum that women have. It's because women have to pick a man who has the capacity for aggression, enough of the capacity for aggression to protect himself and others and to move out into the world against a fair bit of opposition, but who's also simultaneously empathic or perhaps conscientious enough to be caring and share.
Hey, welcome to Dino Reacts. This is the channel where we take our ignorance to excellence. And today, we have a clip from Jordan Peterson on better ways to listen and nurture your woman. Come on this journey with me. Let's get after it. It's always a pleasure to have the opportunity to listen to the wise words of Jordan Peterson. After reading his book, The 12 Steps, it's really had an impact on my life in a way that really aligned me with the type of positive masculinity that can make me prosperous in this world. So, anytime I can take the time to take in more wisdom, I'm a part of it. So, let's get after it.
How do you approach your wife when there is conflict?
Well, one of the things you have to understand about women is you have to listen to them. So women are more sensitive to negative emotion than men, on average. My wife is actually insensitive to negative emotion for a female, but generally speaking, women are more agreeable. That would be part of the maternal dimension of their personality, and they're more sensitive to negative emotion. So they're threat detection systems. And so a woman will bring you her concerns. Now, because she's sensitive to threat, she produces a fair number of false positives, right? So she's concerned about things that maybe it's not necessary to be concerned about, but she'll be concerned about them before you are. So women initiate about 75% of divorces, for example. And you might say, well, that means women are primarily troublesome within a relationship. It's like, well, possibly. It's also possible that they pick up what's wrong in a relationship before men do on average. And because women have to care for infants, that's why they're more sensitive to threat. That's not the only reason. They're also more sexually vulnerable. They're more physically vulnerable. Makes perfect sense that they'd be more sensitive to negative emotion. And that means that in a relationship, they serve the function of threat alert. And so a woman will be concerned about something, and she'll bring her concerns to her husband, and he'll try to solve the problem right away. But that's not helpful because she doesn't know what the problem is necessarily. So she has to wander around and talk about all the things that might be a problem. And if you let her do that, she'll dispense with most of that. And then you can kind of zero in on what the problem might be. And then if you let the discussion unfold to that degree, then you can potentially offer a solution. But I
would have to say I agree with that. It took me a long time to learn that I do not have to fix my woman's problems. I have to hear her out, validate her emotion and feelings, allow her to speak them into the air, and then she fixes them on her own. Because I've noticed that the feminine definitely likes to talk more through their problems, fixing them, than the masculine likes to identify them and fix them. And he made a point that it is really true. In my current relationship, when my woman is going through things, I give her my full presence and attention. I validate her feelings and I listen to her. And I'm patient and attentive, allowing her to see that I'm listening. Allow her to know that I value and validate whatever she is saying and or feeling. And no matter what she says, let it all come out. She might go through maybe 100 problems, pointing things out, maybe about myself, maybe about the situation, maybe about the relationship, maybe about her work, maybe about her family. maybe say things that might even trigger me. But my job, so to speak, as maybe that's too strong of a word, is to sit there and listen to her. And I've noticed that when I do that, she fixes 99% of the problems during the course of the conversation. And then she gets down to what the real problem is. However long that takes. It can take 10 minutes, it can take 2 days. But I know I wait until she asks me for help directly instead of jumping in and trying to fix things. And that mode has continually been working for me. I'm not perfect. I do have my own moments. But for the most part, I know that it works. And the response from her is that she feels heard. She feels paid attention to, and then she allows me to do what I need to do, and that is to correct the situation at hand. And then I make sure that when all of that information is revealed, that I don't go back nitpicking the things that I did not get to take care of or address when she was going through her problem-solving process. Because I know in my heart that those weren't things that were truly problems that needed to be addressed. She was just stating them because she must get them out into the air, must know that I heard them, and then we will work through those things as time goes on. She doesn't want to work through them all. She just needs to address them. And I need to hear them and appreciate the fact that she trusts me enough to be that open with me, be that vocal with me, be that vulnerable with me. And then we get down to the point. I give her presence, stoicism, love, and honor. And she opens up to me and gives me all of her stress, her concerns, her fears, and her threats. And it's a very appreciative energy because that's very nice for him to say. I don't have the threat concerns that she does because I will deal with most threats. And if I can't, I'll figure it out. But being a woman, she's not as strong as me. You know what I'm saying? Being in the world where there are men in this world that will take advantage of them. I don't have that because I just want to get it. And I'm like, anybody can get it. That's my attitude. Well, she has more concerns. And so she will be more aware of things. I thank you for that, Jordan Peterson. I will lock that into my heart and practice that going forward.
Can't do that too early. You learn this in therapy too. Like when people come to lay out their life to you, you might even know what they should do, but you can't tell them. First of all, they won't listen. Second, they're annoyed if you tell them because they need to figure it out. You can't steal someone's destiny from them. You know, if you solve all your children's problems for them, well, you might think, well, they have no problems. It's like, yeah, they have a problem. They don't know how to solve their own problems. That's a big problem. And so you got to back the hell off. And it's frustrating for men often to participate in that more feminine mode of approaching the world. But if you understand that a woman who's more sensitive to trouble will detect things early, and that her discussion of those things that upsets her will clarify problems, maybe even before they arise, then you can understand that it's useful. I mean, I still have to, even after years of practicing this with Tammy, I still have to stifle my proclivity to leap to the solution. You know, but you want to solve the right problem, man. So you got to listen.
No, and that's one of the beauties of having a woman in your life. Like, I put God in front of me. So I'm trying to use God as my everlasting leading light. And my woman's following me, looking at me, pointing at all the threats that I don't see because she can see things that I can't. And it's my job to make sure that I listen to her and take that information in because it does help. And I don't always have it. Sometimes she does. And it's a beauty to have somebody in your life that supports you like that. And I feel him. I feel him when it says that. Sometimes you just have to take the time to listen and trust that she is aware of threats and circumstances that I'm not, because I have a what are you going to do? What are you going to do to me situation? Like, I'm looking for things like, what are you going to do to me? All right, we good. She's looking like, what could possibly happen? So when you blend those two mentalities together, then you get a relationship that is truly built on greater protection. So thank you, Jordan.
And my experience as a therapist indicated to me that in the typical marriage, people need to spend at least 90 minutes a week talking to each other just about their lives, just about the domestic economy, about their kids, about their relationship, just to keep everything up to date. And it's very difficult to have any true intimacy if that isn't allowed for.
I'm sorry, did you say 90 minutes a day?
No, 90 minutes a week.
Is that rare?
Half marriages end in divorce, so it's rare enough.
Yeah, he's correct. That's a practice that me and my lady have been currently doing. I think we're probably about a month into it right now, and I think it's been bringing a deeper intimacy to our relationship. The fact that we just get the mundane things out of the way. I'll talk about like what are our goals, what do we want to set, how was my life, what am I doing with my plans, how are we taking care of each other's health, how are our families, what are our insecurities and fears, what am I worried about, what makes her nervous, how is her body feeling, what is she going through. We just take time to settle into what's actually happening in our realities. And then once we get aligned with our individual goals and then the goals we have set for the relationship, then it becomes easier for us to delve deep into a deeper intimacy and play. And that playfulness only comes out of her when she feels secure that I know where we're going, that I heard her heart, that I heard her mind, that I heard her head, that I respect and value her. Once she is secure in that value base, then that allows her to ease into her feminine and be more playful with me. And for me, when I'm in my masculine totally, if I just soften enough to receive all of that and not consider it as a controlling mechanism from her and just a knowledgeable input that can help the relationship move forward, then I grow more into catering a life that leads us both into purpose. Like, okay, I'm going to do this, but if I do this and this, that makes us both work. Do this and this make us both work. And then through action, and from her watching me do those things that make us both work, she starts to fill in the gaps. You know what I'm saying? Okay, I see him doing this. Let me help him with that. Oh, I see him doing help with that. And she's like, oh, I see her doing this. I got this for her. Let me take that off her plate. Let me take that weight off of her. You know what I'm saying? And it's a harmonious relationship. It's constant work, but it works out in the end because what it leads to is a deeper intimacy that gets us back to sexual play. And that's what men really want at the end. They wanted that affection, that deep appreciated affection, but that has to come from a deep central understanding of your woman's goals for herself, for you, and for the relationship.
You know, I mean, you might find that frustrating that you have to spend that much time attending to your domestic landscape, let's say, but it's better to do that on a regular basis than to do it in divorce court while you're paying your lawyers, $500 an hour and having a custody battle for your kids for 10 years, which is not a fate that I would recommend for anyone who wants to have a happy life. So it's also the case that it's very difficult to engage in any romantic adventure with your wife if there's things between you.
Yep.
It's very hard because that's a form of play, that romantic adventure. And play is a very fragile psychophysiological state. If there's anything between you that hasn't been sorted out, you can't play. So.
Very interesting. I did not realize that was 90 minutes a week sounds like nothing.
Hey man, if it keeps your marriage together, it's a pretty decent investment. I would say that's a minimum.
Yeah.
But, and that would be 90 minutes a week that's specifically devoted to, like your marriage and family as a business, let's say, practical affairs. May take longer than that. Depends on how much disarray there is in your life. But if you start hoping that it's going to be less than that, you drift apart too. You have to weave your stories together like a rope across your life. You have to know what your wife is up to and what she's thinking and vice versa. You have to be on board with your interpretation of the past and the present and also your aims in the future. And that's constant negotiation. See, in our culture, we have this idiot idea that your identity is whatever you say it is. I mean, it's unbelievably immature and narcissistic. In a marriage, your identity is almost never what you say it is. You're negotiating who you are with your wife all the time, and vice versa. And with your kids, for that matter. Your identity, if you're a civilized human being, your identity is a negotiation. People think, I just got to be me. It's like, I don't want to be around you if that's what you're like. I don't mean that you should be a pushover.
Yeah, I like that because I've changed my identity instead of my wife needs to accept who I am. No, I want her to respect that I'll be what's needed. And when she notices that I'm malleable enough to always be what's needed to make the situation successful, we become a stronger relationship. Instead of being so rigid, so oak. It's okay to be rooted. That's morals. But being so oak in my understanding that there is no room for improvement, I think that's what leads to a lot of relationships floundering. Or being too over malleable where you don't stand up for yourself. That's the opposite side. But when I am always what is needed for the success of the relationship, it's like it's easier for the relationship to survive. Like, I will never do anything to respect God. To disrespect God, sorry. And I will never allow her to allow me to do something to disrespect God. So that's my North Star. So I revolve all things around that. Now the decision we make start with that first. And since she sees that I'm coming from a very higher power, then it's easier for her to see that I'm not just going into my own insecurities, into my own self-based bias, or to my own individual judgments. And it makes you a lot more trustworthy and more valuable leader in the relationship.
And that there should be nothing in the situation for you, that you live like a bitter martyr only for the pleasure of other people. That's not helpful. But being mature means negotiating your identity constantly. That keeps you alert and alive too. And I spoke with a very wise man here, Tor Nortranders, just a week ago, and he said something interesting. He said that he could see all women in his wife. And I thought, how the hell do you figure that out? That's a rare thing to understand. He's a very wise person, a Danish author. And if you communicate and then you have all that in your relationship. You can let all that make itself manifest. And if you do that, don't box up your wife. What is it? Peter, pumpkin eater. Put his wife in a pumpkin shell, and there he kept her very well. What does that mean? Well, that's what people do to each other. They put each other in a box, and they don't let their partner or themselves out of that box, and then they get bored. Well, if you communicate with your partner and you facilitate their development, then they continually reveal new parts of themselves, and then your relationship stays dynamic and alive. And that's a good deal.
Do you think people realize they put their partners in a box?
You can get to a very bad place one idiot step at a time. So do you realize it? You realize what you're doing at each micro step. You may be completely ignorant of the total consequence of that. Like if you want to build a pathological personality, you do that one lie at a time. And you might say, well, is someone with a pathological personality conscious of their pathology? And the answer is no, it's habitual by that point. But they were conscious at each decision step.
Very, 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 very deep and introspective. And I think that's going to be a very helpful discussion when it comes to understanding how to better communicate and create a safety area for you and your woman to constantly bring new flavor to the relationship through the evaluation of who and what is needed to be at each specific moment, day to day. And by taking 90 minutes, which is 30 minutes every other day, to just sit down with your woman and check in to where the relationship is on a very negotiated or business minded place, then I guarantee you can create the energy that is needed to create the sexual tension, the sexual play, the sexual pleasure, those things that are very much needed for the relationship to maintain physical polarity along with financial and spiritual polarity. And that all comes from you taking the time to respect her emotions. And then she will definitely take the time to respect your emotions, especially when some of us men have a tough time being vulnerable to our women. And I don't ask men to be vulnerable 100%. I say be vulnerable 35% and leave that other 65% for your very, very close mentor. That would be my suggestion, but definitely give her something so she can trust your depth and your vulnerability, because it's needed for her to open up fully to you. You know, and it's just a necessary part of the sway and flow of a relationship. But I want to thank Jordan Peterson for putting these lessons out in the world to us men that definitely want to have a harmonious joint union with the feminine and love our women and continue on being what is necessary to be kind, gentle, strong, stoic, and purposed men. Great conversation, Jordan. Yeah. Thank you for watching Dino Reacts. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe. Chef's kiss. Yeah.